Is this the greatest poet of all time? No. A critical appraisal of Andrew Tate's poetry. First published on the 10th of October 2022. The attribute that is most typically used when talking about the likes of Andrew Tate and their sudden temporary prominence is meteoric. The definition, according to Merriam-Webster, resembling a meteor in speed or in sudden and temporary brilliance. While this certainly is a fitting and cliched way of talking about it, I would prefer using the adjective Icarian, since it adds a moral, and for that matter, more poetic dimension to the tale of Tate, the tale of one man's limitless ambition thwarted by the limits of his ignorance. In this case, it is at the hands of the internet powers that be which have sent him sprawling from the heights of social media glory to the dark and churning depths of cancellation below. If you do not know who Andrew Tate is, the only information necessary for this post's purpose is to know that he is/was a prominent influencer of the manosphere, who for a short period of time this year reportedly became the most Googled man on the planet before being promptly deplatformed from the social media networks where he built his following. This would normally not be of any interest to this website. I have no intention of writing about Meghan Markle or Kim Kardashian here, were it not for the fact that the man writes poetry too, and not just any kind of poetry, but from the horse's mouth. My Instagram poems are probably the finest literary works in the history of the English language. Perhaps he was joking when he said that, but in my candidness I believe his self-indulgence is real, and that he attaches supreme value to everything he creates. For that reason am I putting it under the critical lens, no other. I believe anybody should be able to delve into the craft of verse without being critically excoriated for it, but if you then become publicly known, and not least, state to hundreds of millions of people that your work is the greatest in the history of the language, well then you better live up to your word, mate, or else. While Tate's narcissism is certainly off-putting, particularly considering that he calls himself a Christian, I have to add an asterisk here. Since writing this, he has converted to Islam. It is nothing that makes his poetry bad per se. I can think of good poets throughout history who were probably just as vainglorious as Andrew Tate and who wrote many fine poems for no other reason than for the publicity. With all that said, let's get underway. I'll be looking at 3 poems that are in fairly wide circulation. I am assuming that they are representative and of high quality since Tate himself has discussed them. I am further keeping them with their punctuation, spelling, and grammar mistakes, since, for the benefit of the doubt, they might actually be intentional. Each of them are written in loosely rhymed quatrains. The first one is untitled. Quote, I show less than I have to stay tasteful, still catching hate 'cause they're hateful. Too much food out the gate, it's a plateful. Now your girl's full of Tate and she's grateful. I show less than I earn 'cause I'm humble. You're bitch in my ride 'cause you're fumbled. Yes, I hear couple pussydom grumble, but they don't try and step, I don't stumble. I show less than I know, I've stopped talking. Split the bullshit from truth I've been clocking. Sit me sit and don't speak like I'm hawking. But there's feet behind talk, bitch, I'm walking. I show less than I love, but I miss her. Thinking back to the day that I kissed her. She left a sore on my heart, there's a blister. The next best thing, that's her sister. This is somewhat surprisingly technically grounded. The dominant metrical foot is the anapest with exclusively feminine end rhymes being used. There are also examples of internal rhyming. Now your girl's full of Tate and she's grateful. And an anaphoric anchor in each of the stanzas starting with the phrase, I show less than. The poem is, of course, about Andrew Tate, and about how he is far more profound than what his exterior puts on. The first 3 stanzas are in praise of his modesty. Yes, not only regarding his material possessions, but also his intellect. The last and the most interesting, since it suggests a softer side, is about lost love, and how Tate gets revenge on his former lover by copulating with one of her near relations. The next one has a title. It's called Battle Scars. We had it all to lose, we had it all to gain. I know it hurts you when you hear my name. There's no sun without rain, no joy without pain. Whoever makes souls made ours the same. Distance kills fake love and shows you what's real. I know the deal, I can play heart of steel. The distance seems to make it much harder to heal. Give me one night of your touch, just one more feel. I'm fucking some bitch and pretending it's you. I fuck a new one each day since we said we were through. I check my inbox and just tear through the queue. I can't sleep at night. What else should I do? I'm kissing this bitch and remember your lips. I'm missing your touch while she's sucking the dick. Got battle scars, girl, guess I finally got hit. But I'm a champion, and I was made for this shit. Metrically, this tends towards the I am in the first two stanzas and towards the anapest in the last two. Once again, this is a lament for absent love. Is it the same love interest from the first poem? There is a suggestion that a physical distance has made their relationship impossible in stanza 2, and he is filling the absence this has created through coition with other partners on a daily basis. There is no feeling of resentment towards his former lover here. He mentions that he has been hurt through her loss, but since he is the highly qualified individual that he is, he just moves on in life. The final one is once again without a title. It goes like this. Every time I leave, there's tears in her eyes. She knows how I'm earning and wants me alive. The struggle is finished, but I still only strive. Understand how its life taught me to survive. Every time I'm moving, there's a strap, no doubt. I don't respect the law, so I travel without. It's rained and it's poured. I even built up a spout. The withouts want my buckets when living in drought. Every time we fuck, I crush my soul into yours. We mix pain and insane with Eiffel Tower tours. I collect cash quiet behind double locked doors. Without profit to make, there wouldn't be wars. Money has no value, so I give time with a don. You're in love with my brains, obsessed with my brawn. Enemies won't stop now, the guns have been drawn. I just hope you'll still love me after I'm gone. Top G. Yet another love poem. What a sweetheart he is. This is vaguely iambic. He uses anaphora in the first three stanzas with the adverbial every time. This poem centres less on Tate's sentiments than it does that of his beloved. It is about how sad she is when he is not present. Why should she be sad? Well, because he lives a dangerous life. He doesn't respect laws, he has dealings with organised crime syndicates, his enemies are armed, etc. And she knows that he might not come back alive after he's gone. Summary. This is not, by any accounts, good poetry. The simplistic vulgarity speaks for itself, so I will not write more on that. But on a more basic level, the poems need far more elaboration. Not only to make the content more profound, but just to tidy up a lot of the clumsier details. Once again, leaving the orthographical and grammatical mistakes aside, this is poetry rife with cliches. For example, there's no sun without rain, no joy without pain, it's rained and it's poured, etc. And just incongruences. For example, why is the third poem, which is about Tate being absent from his lover because of his dangerous lifestyle, suddenly interjected with this silly detail about them going on guided tours of the Eiffel Tower? I have not read any other poems by Tate, but I would imagine that they all read more or less the same. I am not encouraging Tate to stop writing poetry, but if he wishes to write better verse, then he must also understand the limits of his skill. He claims he is a believer, and therefore he ought to understand better than the atheist that one is only exalted in humbling oneself. In the meantime, the main piece of advice that I would give Tate is to read more. There is a painfully conspicuous absence of poetic vision here, and this stems principally from a detachment to a poetic tradition. His verse is one that simply has one point of reference: rap lyrics. And like most rap lyrics, the universe of Andrew Tate's poetry concerns three things: his riches, his bitches, and his ego. And if that is all your art has to go off, your poetry will forever be confined to the dust heap. Andrew Tate, go to a library and borrow a good anthology of English language verse. Or more simply, why not just peruse the anthology I have created myself? Link is in the description.